give your attention to the moderator.
Thank you, Synod. I hope that you have all enjoyed some sugar over morning tea, and for those who have excessively high sugar levels, just enough to get you to stay awake or at least out of hospital. So as we continue, I would also just like to clarify a few things. There's some helpful comments coming in terms of process, and some are not quite clear whether or not it's questions for clarification or speaking into the actual proposal. When we have proposals that will go to working groups, we often will begin with questions for clarification, and there is a distinct difference between that and then when we go into a deliberation session. But these proposals, we will take questions for clarifications and also welcome questions for or discussions in this, because we will also flow into a deliberative session or time if the Synod is heading towards that way. So we're back to the proposal of Proposal 16, and there were two speakers at two questions, people at the microphones, Kelly Woods and Colin Gertine. If you could come to the mics, and we'll continue. Black microphone.
Kelly Woods, Port Phillip West, live around Wurundjeri country. Mine do have two questions in them, and so I hope I can frame them well. The first question that I want to clarify is, how many people are you anticipating on this nominating committee? If you want representatives from our presbyteries and half of it, are you anticipating this to be a 14-person nominating committee? And if not, because that would be silly, then who anticipates you're going to get the presbyteries to nominate from? So that's my one clarification. The other section for the clarification on that is, all of the people part of our churches are members of presbyteries already. And I just want to clarify, what area are you anticipating them going to be nominating from? Are you wanting to get your presbyteries to nominate them from your presbyteries and councils, your standing committees? What is that? We already are members of presbyteries. Our nominating committees, we heed the wisdom of our councils, the breadth of our presbyteries when we come together. The nominating committees are already formed from the widest breadth of the spaces we have. I just want clarification on, what do you think this is going to be different for what we already do in practice?
Thank you. Cam, would you like to respond? Oh, sorry. We will take the next question and then we'll invite a response. Black microphone.
Moderator, Colin Gertine, Presbytery of Lutruwita, Tasmania. I live on the land of the Letru Mariner people. As part of the proposal, Part 8C, the nominating committee explores modern recruitment, employment and remuneration practices. Is the implication there that we would be employing those practices and that we would be looking to remunerate our General Secretary according to some corporate standard rather than the stipendiary practices that we would normally follow?
Thank you. Cam?
Just to answer that second question first, might be to say, I don't want to, I think that's the work of the nominating committee to determine that. I would imagine that it would likely be a placement, but I assume that's something that needs to be determined through the processes of the church. So I don't think that's, but I think they need to explore that to look at the ways in which people in commensurate roles are employed and how they might be approached or, that sort of thing. So, but I think that's the work for the nominating committee to do. How many people on the nominating committee? Well, again, that's something for the Synod Standing Committee to decide. In my mind, it would be something like 8, but like a joint nominating committee kind of size. But I imagine that's, again, it's it's so long ago since we've done it. How many people were on the last one? Are there many people in the room that would know that? I don't know. So they're the kinds of things that need to be explored. Why people from presbyteries? Well, as I said in the... partly because I think for two reasons. One is because I think it's important that this process has strong buy-in from the whole church, and people connected into presbyteries communicate through those presbyteries, and it's kind of a way, I suppose, of ensuring that how we're going about this process is well communicated through the church. I take the point that we are all part of presbyteries. I take that point, and we're certainly not wedded to these things. We offer this for the Synod's discernment. But I think also people in presbyteries, there are a lot of key leaders in presbyteries, and they work closely with people in communities, in congregations and communities of faith. And so they have their finger on the pulse as to what is going on in the everyday life of our church.
Black microphone.
Moderator Duncan McLeod, Executive Officer Elm. The presenters did mention the request to the Synod Standing Committee to prepare a report on leadership succession at 2 synods ago, and that was to broaden its consideration of succession planning beyond senior synod leadership roles to include leadership across the wider synod and presbyteries, undertaking consultation with presbyteries in this, noting that this broadened exploration may lead to establishing a task group or similar comprising synod and presbytery representatives to undertake this task. So if you read the appendix to the Synod Standing Committee report, there is a significant report on the work that's been done over the last 3 years. And the focus has been not on developing a pipeline where we identify people who could be the next General Secretary, but more to broaden the leadership base and ensure that we have adequate and robust capacity for leadership development around governance from congregations and presbyteries and in the wider church. So that's, just to clarify, that's where we got to.
Black microphone.
Moderator David Fotheringham, ex-moderator. I live on Wurundjeri country. Am I right to understand that this is not just questions for clarification now? Thank
Correct.
you. Moderator, I appreciate the intent behind this. However, as the immediate past chairperson of the Synod Standing Committee, I oppose this proposal because I believe that it misunderstands both the role of presbyteries and of the General Secretary, and will reduce the rigour of the nominations process. The Synod appoints a General Secretary who is accountable to the Synod and to its Standing Committee. The Standing Committee now includes 2 presbytery chairs, so does have a good understanding of the life of the presbyteries. The Standing Committee provides for a General Secretary oversight group, which among other things conducts annual performance reviews, which includes consulting with leaders of all presbyteries. But the General Secretary does not have oversight of presbyteries, nor is the General Secretary accountable to them per se. The General Secretary does regularly offer to meet with standing committees, which is taken up in almost all presbyteries. This Synod has just appointed a standing committee whose role includes these processes. The process of position description formulation and inviting expressions of interest includes research and attention to all of the elements named. To have appointments to the nomination committee mixed up like this would interfere with the ability to prepare a nomination committee with the wide skills and experiences which are experience-based necessary, especially as we can't know if presbyteries might only nominate 3 people who may or may not have a particular diversity of skills required. We have made good appointments to the Standing Committee, and we should trust them, rather than fostering an idea that the Standing Committee...
That is time.
Sorry.
But I do recognise that there is some warmth and support of some of those comments that have been made. Red microphone.
Thank you, Moderator. Bob Hodges. I live and I worship on the lands of the Wurundjeri people within the Presbytery of Yarra Yarra. And I'm a member of this Synod, being chair of the Synod's property trusts, at least for the next few hours. I do not support, like the previous speaker, Proposal 16. I cannot support that proposal. What came out to me when I first read this was that the effect of the proposal is to pass the responsibility for determining a proposed candidate for General Secretary position to a majority of presbytery agents. This does not, despite what they might say in the rationale, it does not ensure a broad representation on any such committee. I have no issue with the rationale that you've submitted. In fact, I think it's good work, and there's a good description of the state of the union, and I think that I want to commend you for highlighting this issue to the Synod. Your rationale is generally accurate, as I've said, but it simply does not justify the thrust of the proposal passing effective control of this Synod appointment to presbytery agents. The General Secretary position, as has already been pointed out, resides with the Synod office. It's not appropriate governance to pass effective control on this piece of work to another body of the Church. What about Congress, for example? What about their representation? What about our institutions? So I'm not certain, firstly, that this proposal passes the test for the need for a decision now, our manual for meeting details, and I do not believe that it's appropriate for any further consideration.
That is time.
Moderator, may I have your indulgence to suggest...
That is time. I'm going to seek the wisdom of the council. Will we... Can we give him some more time? Thank you. There is support. Please continue. Continue.
Apologies, Moderator, and thank you for that. I just want to say that I suggest an appropriate way forward at this time would be, given the other business of this Synod, would be to respectfully request that the proposer and the seconder consider withdrawing this proposal. Thank you.
There is some warmth and support towards that, but there are also some blue cards. Red microphone.
Moderator, members of Synod, Fee Morrison, Presbytery of Gippsland, Ungunai, Kurnai Land, and I will say in this space, a chair of the Presbytery who has just been elected to Synod Standing Committee for my gifts, skills and sins. And I also want to say I was on one of the Presbytery representatives on the extension group for when our current General Secretary was extended, which was only made up of Presbytery representatives. I also know that when the JNC happened, as in the previous, I can only speak from that time because the previous General Secretary was before my time in this Synod, that there were Presbytery reps on that. I also want to say that I felt in the discomfort in reading this that it felt like was implying that our current General Secretary has no pastoral heart. And I'm sure that's not what was intended. But I want to say that this role is indeed a pastoral role. I know as a chair of PRC, when I have rung up at 5 o'clock on a Friday night, that the General Secretary has answered my call and run upstairs to find lawyers and to help me in those situations. Has never refused a phone call and offered a sincere pastoral care. I know that's not what was intended, but I just want to ensure that we hear that we do have a General Secretary who has a deep pastoral heart for the people and the communities of this Synod. And I also struggle with the idea that the potential future General Secretaries be paid in a different way than a stipend. Because I believe as a stipend that calls us all into one equality of ministry so that they are not seen as a different embodiment of our church. Thank you.
I'm going to invite the proposer or the seconder if they would like to respond.
Oh gosh, right. Let's deal with that last bit from Fee. Thank you very much, Fee. Because we are trying to look at the skills and set that will be needed by our General Secretary in the future, does not mean that we are criticising Mark. It might seem that way when you start talking about who's going to replace somebody, but that's not our intention. Our intention is about what the next General Secretary will be like. We've heard from Duncan about the report back on the succession and the leadership plan, and it seems to have developed into a general lifting of leadership skills. There was nothing about how we're going to select the next General Secretary. We had that inability to follow that through, it would seem, at the previous time this was debated at Synod. And we wanted the Synod to have the opportunity to, as it is now, to talk about it. We had some thoughts about the sort of things we should do if we're going to talk about this. We wanted a broad base of from the whole Synod, not from Presbytery, but from the whole Synod, but with different views, people who work in different locations, to be nominated. And then the Standing Committee would select people, as they have always done, to be part of the nominating committee, selection committee, what it is called. And that's all we're trying to do, really, is to let us think about the sort of skills. And people have said, well, all right, those are good skills that you've put in the rationale. So that's what we want to do. And we want saying that we would like the Standing Committee to consider how they select people for that. Yes, it's part of what they do. We're emphasising the fact that we would like the whole Synod to be involved in that. Obviously, you can't have the whole Synod on the selection committee, but to look at how you pick people up and to make sure that there is transparency, I suppose, in how the whole process is happening, so that if nothing happened in the next 2 years and Mark decides to leave, then suddenly everything has to happen in a rush. And we wanted to start the work now so that we can have that work undertaken. How do we get to that? You know, we could withdraw it. How do we know that the rationale is going to be listened to, all those sort of things? So we will prefer to leave it, I think, to the voice of Synod to decide whether that is, and if you prefer not to have that route, then well, that's the voice of Synod. That's Synod has spoken, and that's what we wanted to do by bringing this, to allow the voice of Synod to be heard in the selection of the person who is going to be our General Secretary at a time of great upheaval. It's nothing about Mark, it's about the next one.
Thank you. And yeah, I would like to remind Synod that if we could stick to the proposal, speak to the proposal, not to an individual. Black microphone.
Moderator Avril Hannah-Jones, Yarra Yarra Presbytery. My deep apologies for once again standing at the microphone, but I am deeply concerned about the tone of this debate and the way in which a sensible proposal seems to have been taken by some members of Synod as an attack either on them or on committees of which they are a part. Reading this proposal and the rationale, I did not see an attack on the Standing Committee. I did not see an attack on the General Secretary. I did not see a suggestion that the people we have just elected to the Standing Committee are in any way incompetent or unable to do their work. What I saw was a suggestion, a very sensible suggestion, that we have things to look for in our next General Secretary that it would be good for us to start thinking about now. And I understand the excitement of getting up and making very emotional speeches on the floor of the Synod, but I don't think they're particularly helpful in this case.
Seems to be some support and also a moving on. But we'll take a few more questions.
Thank you,
Red microphone.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Moderator Chris Phillips. I just want to name something. I think it has been difficult for us the past few days, right? We're coming with very different perspectives and different sides, and we're emotional, which is appropriate. But I do want to think about the ways in which we can try and work together about this and listen from each other. When I received this report, proposal, although it was not named in there, my first thought was, okay, is this, criticism of Mark? And I had to work through that for me. I've come to the place where I feel that this was delivered in good faith. I don't support this proposal as it is, but one of the things that I think I've been really heartened by in this synod is Salesi's pastoral leadership and the way that you've really encouraged us to hold each other, walk together, regardless of whether at difficult moments we disagree. So, my suggestion to everyone here, and you can take me up on it if you like, is that we try and listen from people who don't agree with us on this proposal, and that we continue to hold each other in trust and respect as we go this way forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Red microphone.
Moderator Craig Thompson. I am in support of the spirit of the proposal. I have heard the critique of the mechanics that it proposes in terms of how to get to that spirit. I believe the spirit is in the rationale and not in the proposal. It's a request for change. And it's asking, how do we change? And it proposes a way of doing that. How do we tell a different story about ourselves than the one we are currently telling, which is there in the reports and so forth, if you can join the dots, which is actually pretty hard to do. It's unfortunate that this all falls upon the position of the General Secretary, because that person is not the church, and yet that person lasts for a long time and becomes a culture-bearing, bears the culture for the community. To characterise the change of the church, and then with reference to the word pastoral, I think I might have been partly responsible for that getting up there on account of the critique I'd written of the proposal, but the word pastoral there is to speak not about the individual, but about the character of the church. We are very well administered. We are very well managed. But there is considerable antipathy between congregations and presbytery and congregations and synod. We need an episcopal figure. Not talking about someone who answers the phone when you call at an inconvenient hour. I'm talking about somebody who is able or can facilitate the church becoming broadly whole, as distinct from 3 levels, despite the fact we say we're not 3 levels. So I support the spirit, and I'd be disappointed if we left this space today and didn't have something in place to think about that change of spirit. Because this is what I think it's the proposal seizes the moment of this change in position to ask that question, because there's nowhere else to ask that question.
Red microphone.
Moderator Geraldine Leonard, Presbytery of North East Victoria. I have a question of yourself and then of the people making the...
This is in regards to this proposal.
It is indeed. I am wondering whether the proposers would consider sending this matter to the Presbytery Synod Forum, because it seems to me what they're trying to do is to have a broad input into the job description in some sense, and all of the things that were just said about the character of a person who would be in significant leadership. It's late in the Synod. We're all ready to go home.
I'd just like to just hold up there and just to remind us that we are actually talking about this proposal.
Yes, indeed.
But this is also the line of questioning seems to think that I have power
No.
to decide something on my own.
No, to ask the question.
That will be the wisdom of the council.
Whatever, moderator.
Thank you then.
But I'm seriously asking whether the proposers would see value or be willing to transfer the question to the... And it was really a question of yourself about whether this is technically possible.
I'm going to invite the proposer or the seconder to respond.
I think we think this provides the Synod itself an opportunity to make set some direction, and so I think it would be good for the Synod itself to actually set that direction. I do want to say that I think that, it seems that point 4, I don't think our intention has been that presbyteries dominate this process, but that we actually support it, and that we actually... So if the sticking point for the Synod is point 4, I don't think we're wedded to that in a way that... So I think presbyteries nominating, I think seems like a smart thing to do, because that surely supports the Synod Standing Committee in its process. We only say that that they're simply nominating for potential inclusion. So if it's the point that it's half of the... I don't think we're wedded to that.
Before I take the next lot of questions, I'm just going to test the room, the temperature of how do you feel about this proposal in its current form, and please indicate. There seems to be this. There doesn't seem to be a lot of support.
Could I just say to the people who are showing move on cards, I think that's what the moderator's trying to help us do now, so it's not helpful at the moment to show those cards while we're testing. It's confusing.
I would like to now test without clause 4 how you feel about the proposal without clause 4. There is still a lot of opposition to the proposal. The reason why I'm seeking the temperature of the council at this stage is whether or not it will be meaningful for the council to continue on in our discussions. I'm going to take these next questions, and then I will check back again with the council to see what the temperature is. Black microphone.
Thank you, Moderator. Alistair McRae, representing Uniting Vic Tas, and I live and work on Wurundjeri country. I'm just trying to pick up the tone of responses from the meeting moderator, and I wonder if I can suggest a possible way forward. I'm hearing a lot of support for the rationale and part 1 and 6 of the proposal, and I wonder, I don't know if this is foreshadowing an amendment, but it would be a real pity if the work of Port Phillip East is lost. There's a lot of value, and I sense there's a lot of support for the rationale. But if there was some way that the proposers could accept that the Synod requests that the rationale and parts 1 and 6 of the proposal be forwarded to the Standing Committee to be taken into account in their regular J&C processes.
There seems to be a lot of support for that. The proposer?
Yes, I think we would accept, if that is the Synod's discernment, we would happily accept that.
So then, I recognise that there were another couple of speakers, but I'm going to test the room in relation to that amendment of the rationale, but also it would help, Alistair, if you could write that down. Can we just pause for a moment and just talk among yourselves, and I'll get that wording. Thank you. We're going to suspend this particular proposal just until we get the wording for this, and then we'll come back to it. But now we're going to move on, or move back, sorry, to the fire levy proposal. While the wording, we'll wait for the wording to come, and then we'll return. But we're going back now to the to proposal 17. And I'll invite the proposer to come to the stage. And it's ready to go onto the screen.
Moderator, just by way of explanation, Harvey had to leave the meeting, and so I will stand in as one of the proposers. Trevor Bassett, Presbytery of Western Victoria, and I live on Wadawurrung land. So there's been a couple of amendments that are in red, and we accept those amendments. Just making the note that this has been brought because the fire service levy is a Victorian issue, and so apologies to people in Tasmania, but it's not that we don't want to stand solidly with that. Just as if I think if the Synod was asked to address a Tasmanian cemetery issue, we would want to express solidarity in that. So I just want to make that point. We ask the Synod to stand solidly with this issue with rural communities and make some representation on behalf of the Church with our rural communities in our minds and our hearts. And I also just want to acknowledge that we are talking about the motion, not the rationale, which does get a little sidetracked onto some other issues. So we really do want the Synod to focus on that rather than the rationale when it comes to the motion.
We'll take the red microphone, and then I'm going to test the floor.
Moderator Rowan Pryor, Litera Mariner country in Lutruwita, Tasmania. A comment, if I may, as Synod Liaison Minister for Tasmania. Understand the, how do you put it positively? The lack of ill intent, the oversight. The point that was being made earlier by the Presbytery Secretary for the Presbytery of Tasmania is that we are a synod of Tasmania and Victoria, and there are fire services levies in Tasmania that affect our farmers as well, and there are changes coming in those. So we understand it's an easy oversight, and it's being corrected by the words on the screen. Thank you.
Now I'm going to test the room, given the amendment. Okay, now for decision in relation to the proposal. Thank you, Synod. We have consensus. Thank you. Sue, where are we going next?
We're moving to the business of Proposal 14, and PPE are back.
We are going now to Proposal 14. So I invite David and Jay, David Higgin and Jay Robinson. Thank you, David.
Sorry, I shouldn't have gone back to my seat. Moderator, Synod, David Hyam, Chair of Port Phillip East Presbytery, and I live and work on the country of the Boonwurrung people. My colleague Jay is not intending to speak. We're running out of time. We understand that. Gosh, this is about church finances, isn't it? It's complicated, and there's a lot of money involved. And we recognise and appreciate the incredible work done by the MRU and others to improve the financial position of the church. But in this proposal, the Presbytery is asking you to consider some further work to be done. And this concerns mission and service payments to us, the Synod, and fees for service charges which have increased in recent times. So, mission and service. If my reading of the accounts is right, this is about $2.5 million, a significant sum to move from congregations to the Synod. For the Synod, again, looking at our annual accounts for last year, it represents, for last year, 4% of our total income and 5% of our total surplus for the past year. Actually, if we hadn't have asked congregations for anything at all last year, we would still have had a surplus of over 45 million. Now, obviously there are many reasons why surpluses and deficits arise, other things in the accounts, we understand all that. But this is in a climate where a lot of congregations are really struggling financially. The second part is the fees for service, a system where we, the Synod, charge congregations for work that our Synod staff do for them. Now, I've no idea how much money is involved, but it obviously wasn't big enough to warrant a line in the accounts, unless I've missed it somewhere. And for example, a small congregation received a bill for $7,279 to move money out of their property sales proceeds fund to build a kitchen and other things in their property. So it's their money, and just to move the money, they're being charged $7,279. Now that actually amounted to 20% of their reserves. This fee for service had a huge impact. And that's only one of many, many examples. We, and I mean you and I, the Synod, are billing our congregations for work done for them. It seems that we're treating our congregations as an income stream, a way of getting more money into our coffers, allowing us to forecast that we can survive for the next 45 years and more while they're going broke. I believe we really do need to change this system. The Presbytery takes very seriously the responsibility that we hold to love and care for our congregations in the Presbytery, and we try to support them in the work of being the embodiment of the church in one place. Without the missionary work at congregational level, the church would not be. And indeed, this is identified in the risk assessment for our Synod as a critical risk for the Synod. We are now prioritising the critical risk of financial sustainability for the next 40 years above the critical risk to missional engagement, impact and experience now. The church is changing, and the ability of congregations to undertake their crucial work is being challenged. It's too easy to say close all those who are financially struggling. We can sell their buildings and put more money in our bigger barns. But it's interesting to note that the strategy and prioritisation of issues in the Presbytery is also shown as a critical risk. I can see why. I believe we're getting this prioritisation seriously wrong. I would have liked to ask for immediate change, but what this proposal is asking for is for work to be done before we meet again, and I believe we need to do that work. Now, no doubt this proposal will be met with cries, we're busy, we can't do things, we don't have money in our budget. But this is a Synod budget. It's yours and mine budget. And I hope that you will support this proposal and ask for that work to be done. We are the 2025 Synod, and we need to do something. I move this proposal.
Questions for clarification? Or comments? Red microphone.
Marlo, moderator, Matt Julius. I appreciate this. This seems to be articulating a deficit of trust between the Presbytery and the Synod. I think it's good to surface areas of concern. My question is, when I read the Presbytery Synod Forum report, it mentions that on the agenda has been discussions about mission and service giving and discussions about Synod property engagements with presbyteries and congregations. So my question is, what is the relationship between this proposal and the work of the Presbytery Synod Forum? Is it that that structure, you believe, is inappropriate or not helpful for these kind of discussions? Is it that the Presbytery Synod Forum isn't really doing the work that it is being asked to do? Or is there something else going on? Because I think the issue is real. It just seems to me that we have a body in the church that, by its own report, has had these discussions. So I'm confused by that.
David?
Okay. Right. Moderator, I'm not intending this to be criticism of any individual people, okay? It's the process. It is true that we have raised these issues at this Presbytery Synod Forum. We talked about our mission and service, and the questions we raised were never really answered. We were shown graphs of how mission and service is used, what it's used for, so that people can understand what it's used for, and therefore will give more readily. And when we raised the issue of fee for service, I have to say that we were pilloried. So we felt that we needed to bring this before the Synod so that we can decide what action should be taken. What are we asking for? We're asking for those discussions that we were denied to take place. How will we do that? maybe representatives from presbyteries meeting with representatives from the appropriate bodies at Synod. We just want them to know that this is a real issue for our congregations. Our mission and work at the front line, the people who embody the place of the church in communities is under threat, and we want to try and rebalance things. It's all about balance, isn't it? How much we conserve our money in bigger barns and how much work we do at the front line. And we're trying to rebalance that. The balance has got out of kilter and people were not listening.
I would like to invite a comment from the Property and Operations Committee Chairperson. Helen, if you could come to the microphone. This is in light of the clause that we passed at the start about expenditure outside of budget. Black microphone, sorry.
Helen Geard, Chair of Property and Operations. As our moderator alluded to, we passed a proposal that invited a comment from the Chair of P&O after consultation with the M&M Committee Chair. I just want to not to play any big part other than that we need to be reminded that the Synod budget and the people capacity is limited. If we add any work or commitments to this, there's impact on the work that we can do. That's the formal bit done. I'm actually buzzing, believe it or not, and I'm excited about what happened last night. It was about faithful futures. We have been invited to nurture what we have and embrace a future that is emboldening and important. We have a voice that the world needs to hear. We have a story of good news that the world needs to hear. Then we've got Act 2.
I don't want to interrupt your wonderful speech.
Yeah, no, let's not.
But I would like to get a budget implication.
Yes. So what that budget implication is, we have faithful futures, we have Act 2, good work to be done, and this will all cost time, money and energy. Where do we want to spend our energy? I have no idea how much it's going to be to review the machinations of mission and service. We will do the work if that's the discernment of the Synod, but it has an impact on the work that we can do in delivering faithful futures and Act 2.
Next speaker, black microphone.
Thank you, Moderator. Lisa Carey, Presbytery of Port Phillip West. I live on the land of the Wurundjeri people and my pronouns are she, her. I guess I'm a bit confused about why we have this proposal in front of us when there are forums of the church, as Matt Julius referred to, that actually already deal with these questions and actually look at the money for the mission service giving, like the Presbytery Synod Forum and the conversations around fee for service that Property and Operations has been involved in as well. Noting that we only, that the fee for service, you pay about 40% of what you would pay in the general market, and that not every congregation needs the people that are actually providing the services for a fee, so why should the whole church pay for individual congregations for fees for service? It feels like this is preempting the conversations around, like Helen referred to from P&O, about Faithful Futures and Act 2 and what actually comes out of those two big bodies of work that we need to resource and finance. And I just feel that, that this proposal doesn't actually show engagement with the Presbytery Synod Forum, which is exactly where the question around fee for service has been raised and has been discussed. And in relation to mission and service giving, that's not a responsibility of the Synod or a Synod committee, that's the responsibility of presbyteries to set the amount that we're asking our congregations to actually support the wider church, of which it's a missional budget. The mission and service giving is around 11% of the missional budget. 45% supports the work of Elm, 28% supports the work of our Secretariat, 16% are grants paid, and 11% supports the presbyteries in staffing roles. So I don't quite understand why we have a proposal like this, and I would ask it gets withdrawn.
Red microphone.
Ken Tabat, and I live on land of the Wurundjeri people. I think there are two matters. One is process and the other is content. I think the content is interesting, and I'm glad that Port Phillip East has raised these matters, and it would be good to get these matters listed and even more from the floor of the presbytery, the floor of the synod. It seems to me that what we are dealing with is some misunderstanding, or not sure of the way the whole of the synod, its presbyteries and congregations operate. I've been a member of the Synod Finance Committee, its Property and Operations Committee, and at Yarra Yarra I'm a member of the Resourcing and Property Committee. There's a lot of bits of moving parts which I don't think are well understood, and I think what this and Proposal 15 are talking about is a wide consultation to understand the way we work. And that will go from congregations to presbyteries and to the synod and to the assembly. And that would be a really good thing to have. And it would be good to get even more items listed at this synod meeting. The other question is the process. I don't think the way this is framed is all that helpful. It would be better to refer all of these good ideas to the Standing Committee to arrange for such a consultation across the whole of the synod, so that people who are dealing with these things get a better understanding of the way the whole of the finances of the synod work. Then we might be able to say, this is a better way to go. But at the moment, it's directed only towards the synod and not so much towards the presbyteries and congregations, which need to play a part.
That's time. I couldn't quite figure out what your question was, but I'll take that as a comment. And black microphone.
Moderator, Trevor Bassett. I in part agree with Ken, but I think there's a perception amongst congregations and presbyteries that there has been a change in the way income is derived, and the change seems to be from property sale proceeds, which has significantly increased, because many churches, many presbyteries are seeing properties sold, and we're having an increasing number, which, with the understanding we have of Commonwealth, changes the way income is derived. And I think if the Standing Committee were to have some kind of a review of those income streams and instigate a conversation with presbyteries and congregations, that would be a really helpful thing.
Thank you. I think we're getting a number of comments that are working towards there needs to be more work done here. David, would you like to respond?
Well, as I said during my presentation, my proposal, the issue that concerns us is that we're getting things out of balance. We seem to be gathering more money into the centre, and our congregations are hurting. That's what we're trying to do, to stop our congregations hurting. So what are we asking for? We're actually asking, maybe we got the process wrong, but we've spoke about these proposals for, I don't know, about 3 months at different venues, and we've tried to rationalise them down into these proposals. We had it as one proposal, and we were invited to split into two proposals. And what Ken Tabart suggested is actually what we want. We want to have a conversation between Synod and presbyteries, taking account of the work that our congregations do in trying to, for the church, be the voice of the church in the community, the embodiment of the church in the community. And we're moving funds away from that to the centre. It's been mentioned about Faithful Futures. You'll remember the discussion we had, the large discussion about putting in new communities of faith and renewing communities of faith. They didn't appear in the Faithful Futures process. We wanted the Faithful Futures process to address the work that our congregations are doing. How can we help congregations get better? How can we grow new communities? And they need the resources to do that. Maybe through Faithful Futures that might happen now that we've got those two clauses in. Maybe that might happen. But what we want is a discussion between presbyteries, representing congregations, and the Synod about how we get this balance right. How much money we hold in our, and I'm using the terms, bigger barns. How much is there compared with the empty barns of most congregations? Yes, we have work to do as presbyteries to move some of the money out of some bigger barns there, out to the rest of it. So we have work to do with that, and we're having discussions with different congregations, and in Port Phillip East that is happening. But we need a more general discussion. It can't be solely about financial stability. It has to be about the work that we do in the communities for the mission of the church. And we're asking it to be balanced, and we'd welcome a discussion. And if that is accepted, we would willingly go forward with that. That's what these two resolutions are aiming to achieve.
I'm going to test the floor and see what the appetite of the council is in relation to ongoing discussions, further discussions in this matter. I'm asking for an indication. There's still a fair bit of blue, but there is still a majority or more than a majority of orange. Black microphone.
Moderator, Bron Howard from the Presbytery of Tasmania, live and work on the lands of the Letter of Mariner people. I am truly torn. I am a staff member of the Presbytery of Tasmania and the Synod of Victoria and Tasmania. Our congregations decide what mission and service they can pay, and as a presbytery we send that information on. I'm at the end of a phone, which we have two admin staff, one property and me. And if any of our congregations ring up needing advice, they get myself or they get a nook, and we give them the advice that we can give them. If we need to go further than that, we would direct them to property or legal or whatever. Now, our advice is free, but for the legal team and whoever that they need to speak to, they need to pay fee for service. And the staff don't work for nothing, and believe me, there's a lot of things that we can get to do in an office that isn't just chasing up other information, like deal with 41 cemeteries, which have their own issues. But the bit I'm a little bit cheesed off about is that all the bequests were brought over to the Synod, which I understand it was needed to happen. We have a very small bequest, and we get now the privilege of paying you ethical twice a year to put our interest into the funds management account that we have no control over. And we're paying them twice a year to put that interest onto our ledger. That annoys me.
I'm going to invite a comment from the General Secretary.
Thank you, Moderator. I'd like to give a correction to the comment that was just made. The correction is that when the the property team or legal team are contacted about advice and so forth for any of the matters for which they have responsibility, it is not always fee for service. The fee for service only happens at particular points and particular levels of service depending on the program undertaken. The property team receives countless numbers of phone calls and emails that are responded to at no cost, except that it's part of the budget and part of what is offered as part of the overall P&O budget. Likewise, the legal team. I do want the Synod to hear that fee for service only happens in specific areas that relate to specific projects. It is not a blanket arrangement. That's really important for us to hear in this discussion. And when it comes to trusts, as I said the other day, we have been able to work through trust arrangements, so there are cheaper costs now for legal fees related to trusts, and there are some fees related to expenditure and movement of fees, but that would be the case wherever the trust funds are stored to go into the accounts of the people who make use of those trusts. It's something which is part of arrangements with all trusts, and when it comes from You Ethical, it's at a reduced, discounted price.
I'm going to take one more question or comment or discussion, and then I'm going to test the room. Red microphone.
Chris Barnett, Yarra Yarra, live on Bunurong land. I'd like to highlight two principles, and if there is time, name perhaps a broader issue. For many years, there seems to have been a focus on moving money from congregations to the Synod, from the edge to the centre, to enable greater long-term sustainability for the church. The question, I think, is whether the time has come for a greater focus on moving resources from the centre, the Synod, to the margins, our congregations. To my mind, there's also the principle, I think, of subsidiarity, which, as I understand it, is of getting the resources as close as possible to where they are needed. Two principles that I think come into play behind this proposal. I also want to highlight the issue that I think Matt Julius named a few moments ago, maybe in a different context, of trust. I have the privilege of working for congregations as part of the presbytery, and I think trust is a huge issue for us. It was named and came out of 2 synods ago. There has been work that has taken place. In the last week, in my role and through being here, I've experienced incredible support from members, different members of the Synod Secretariat and other aspects of the broader life of the church. At the same time, I've been part of conversations and had experiences that, to me, evidence us as a synod lacking trust in the competency of presbyteries and of lacking confidence in the capacity of presbyteries. So part of the reason I'm supportive of this proposal is I think it helps us as a synod build trust with presbyteries, with congregations. We've talked about change along the way. I'm not sure of the exact quote, but there's something like change is only ever going to progress at the speed of trust and relationship.
Okay, Synod, I'm going to test the room for the appetite. This is for appetite. If given that there was a fair bit of indication that of blue cards for the ongoing conversation, how does the council feel? Hang on, let me just find the words for this. An indication of support or otherwise for the proposal. Please indicate. There has been an increase in blue cards. I am going to conclude this discussion, given that there is no immediate way forward here. And we will move on to the next proposal. Thank you. No, we have concluded.
No, I just want to withdraw. The other one.
David, you can comment, but it's concluded.
So, Moderator, we've been grateful for the support shown, but we recognise that we're probably unable to get even agreement or decision on these aspects. We've raised the issue. We want further conversation. The next proposal is essentially the same about different topics within finance.
David,
and we are...
David, we're not moving into the next proposal until I call it.
Sorry, I was going to say we would withdraw the next proposal.
Oh.
Sorry, please.
Okay.
Let me finish speaking.
Okay. It'd be good if we had some communication, David, before we did anything.
I was going to do it this way.
Okay.
Sorry, I was speaking to Synod. Sorry, Moderator. What I was arriving to, because the next proposal is essentially the same but other topics, we're unlikely to reach agreement on that, and we therefore withdraw proposal 15. Thank you.
We're going to seek leave to withdraw, and that's a procedural proposal. And so we need 50% of the council to, which we have more than 50%. Thank you. There's a point of order. Could you make red microphone?
Thank you, Moderator. My point of order is that I would just like to clarify the proposal that we just did, which was number 14? 14. Have we adjourned that from this meeting, or have we just stopped it for this time and we'll come back to it later?
I have concluded it. It no longer exists. And then the other one has been withdrawn.
So do we not need to vote to adjourn that then? Because there was a lot of warmth still in the room, and I feel like that procedurally we should be deciding to not make that decision.
I have made a ruling on that conclusion of that particular proposal. Okay. Given the reflection of what the council has in the room. Thank you. Sue, can you head us in the right direction to the next piece of work?
Thank you, Moderator. We're paddling up here. We might return to proposal 17. Where were we at with that? I'm a bit lost myself, I'm sorry.
Just spend a moment in your tables, please.
Just give me one moment. I'm doing 20 tasks up here. Just one moment. We're going to go to proposal 26, which is an amendment to proposal 16, which is now on your app. And the movers of this are Al McRae and Cam McAdam. So this is the business around the appointment of the General Secretary and Al's suggested amendment. So if we go to that business now, is it not on your app? 25, I'm sorry, I'm juggling numbers as well up here. 25, thank you, Kelly. I was missing the hand signals, yep.
Thank you, Synod, and also for your assistance from the floor. Proposal 25 with the amendment.
And we'll put it on the screen as well.
And we're going to put it on the screen.
Yep.
Thank you, Cam.
Moderator, members of Synod, Cameron McAdam and I'm seconding this proposal. So this was taken from our conversation about proposal 16, and ours offered some helpful language that takes the heart of that proposal and the rationale. So what it is we as a synod would like to say about the appointment of the next General Secretary, and sends that to the Standing Committee for their guidance in the process of appointing the next General Secretary.
Thank you.
Can I say one more thing? Sorry, moderator. I just want to be. I want to say two more things. One is that I want to be very clear, and I want to be very clear that we are not looking back in making this proposal. We are looking forward. So I reject the inference that we are critiquing or criticising somebody, Mark or another General Secretary or whatever. We are not doing that. This is about looking forward. And PPE has worked hard on these proposals, and we bring them for the Synod's discernment. We are not seeking to push or own or whatever, but we bring them with good heart to the Synod for your discernment.
Red microphone.
Thank you, Moderator. Lucas Taylor, live and work on Wurundjeri land, and from the Presbytery of Yarra Yarra. Just a clarification, although it didn't make it up on the screen, the proposers brought the words of the inclusion of pastoral heart into point 1, and I note that that hasn't made it through into this. Is that a deliberate omission? Or?
No, it's not. No,
My,
that should be
my
there.
apologies, that was a cut and paste issue. Sorry.
Any further questions? If not, I'm going to put it to the floor. Could you please indicate your willingness to make a decision? There is a yellow card, so can you please make your way to the microphone? Is that a yellow card or an orange card? It's an orange card. So now there is a blue card. Could you make your way to the microphone? Microphone.
Sorry. Thank you, Moderator. Chris Phillips. Can I have some clarification, please, about the wording of pastoral ministry versus pastoral heart? I have some concerns regarding the phrasing pastoral ministry, because I think it may somewhat limit what is being commended to the Standing Committee, and I wonder whether that will require experience in pastoral ministry as a very important thing, as opposed to skills in pastoral leadership or a pastoral heart.
Cam?
As I have conversed with other people over morning tea this morning, I think we would want to understand that term broadly. So if pastoral heart is a better phrase, I would certainly be happy with that. I think we need to understand that ministry experience broadly, and that it might come in a range of ways. So I wouldn't want it to be seen to be narrow in how we might understand that idea of pastoral ministry.
Is there warmth for that for Synod in the room? Okay. I'm going to again test. If you are ready to make a decision, please indicate with your cards. There is another blue card. Would you like to say something? Please make your way to the microphone.
Loud. I just want to know what I'm voting on. Where's the pastoral heart going to fit? Can we just update what we're voting on before we get asked?
It's up there on in the red.
No, it's not.
Oh, pastoral ministry.
Yeah, it still says pastoral ministry.
Sue?
Moderator, can I suggest that we make an amendment that says that the next General Secretary have a pastoral heart and experience and/or qualifications in.
How does the room feel? There's overwhelming support for that, but there is still 2 blue cards in relation to that. Would you have a suggestion of a word? Are you happy to go with the rest of the synod in relation to move towards a decision? Thank you. So now for decision. With the amendment, please indicate with your cards. Thank you, Synod. We have consensus. Stand up, turn around, and then we'll sit down and continue. Please. Can I have your attention? A lot has been said. And there have been perhaps some heaviness in the work that we are doing. And we have to tend to the Spirit. And so I invite you into a time of silence, given where we have just been. And let us pause for a moment. In prayer. Guiding Spirit, speak to us clearly. Intimately are we known to you. Hold us in this moment. You did not say it would be easy to discern your moving. But your promise is that you are here with us. Words have been spoken, amendments made, concerns have been shared. Holy Spirit, help us see. Help us hear. Keep us safe. For those of us who do not feel safe, draw your presence near. Hold us in this work that we are doing. And in our discernments, may your light continue to guide us. And this we pray. In Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you, Synod. I'm going to hand it to Sue, and she will tell us where we're going next.
Thank you, Moderator. That'll be lunch. But the end is in sight. We will come back at 2 p.m. for a final business session before our various closing sessions. Just to let you know that John's Bible study notes and PowerPoint are now on the app website under the resources section, so thanks for that, John. And if you wanted to tidy some rubbish off your table so that you can do it in sort of small runs on your way out to lunch and then later on, that would be, I don't know, a good idea, as I say to my teenage children. back here ready to start at 2, please. Thank you, Moderator.
Thank you, Synod.